Hello everyone. Is this approximately the size of your brain right here? This video is not sponsored, and this is a very unique set. I had to get it because it's just so weird. It's from ZOIN. The brand is ZOIN, Z-O-I-N. I bought it from barweir.com. It was about $36, $37 shipped, and they have no indication of how many parts are included in this. I'm not even going to bother to try to estimate it because I'll probably be really, really wrong. It's just such a weird thing, but it comes with lights. And you can see those lights right now to represent some firing neurons. What exactly is this? Well, first of all, obviously it's representing some form of a human brain, but then it has printing on the outside. Is it supposed to represent like a giant brain from an alien? Was this developed? Is this just some sort of very, very weird dystopian fantasy? Is this a Lilliputian sort of situation going on? I don't know. It's just so weird. I just had to try it out. Now, they've got actually a series of sets that they've done. Out in Bar Weir, I had to pick between this, an eye, a heart, and a tooth. They have a tooth as well, a gigantic tooth. This thing is interesting. It's definitely interesting. Now, it has two main colors of pink, and you can see that here. So it's got a very, very light pink, and then more of a standard modern light pink. This is more of the old style of light pink. If you're more used to the Danish brand, 20, 30 years ago or so, they had a more pale version of pink than they do today. So this is more like the more current one. And it's just super creepy. Honestly, it seems so wrong. But a ton of prints. It does feature two stickers. So this right here is a sticker going across three inverted tiles. And then down below that is kind of a half sticker. So this represents a printout that is happening where they've done a partial scan. And this part right here doesn't have any adhesive on it. Only the upper part has an adhesive to attach it to this kind of drum. And you can kind of rotate that up. So the idea is that you would rotate this in. It can kind of spin around. I'm not going to actually do it right now because I don't want to damage this. It'll actually roll up. Unfortunately, this is just a little bit too wide for the space there. So it's a little bit impacted on the sides, but another just interesting thing going on here, right? And then I'll show you what the figure looks like a little bit later on. The build of this, I will say, was not great for several reasons. First of all, I thought that the parts were from GoBricks. The bags definitely feel like GoBricks. Maybe they're using the exact same bags as GoBricks does, but the bricks don't quite seem the same. The bricks feel just a little bit sharper around the corners and definitely have a little bit more clutch power. So they required a little bit more strength to squeeze together. And that's not good in an assembly that is this open, that has this much hollow space in it. In many areas, you're going to need to provide extra strength, extra force to push things together. And you're going to need to push from both sides. Because if you just push directly in, you're going to start to collapse things. So that's definitely not a good thing. And then also these tubes here are too stiff. I wish that these tubes were a little bit more flexible, because to get them to line up the way that they're intended to, it requires some work. So they've got these coral-like pieces, and then the tubes are attached into those. And those are only attached, like the one right here is only attached with a couple of studs, and it tends to want to pop out just from the force of this. This is already starting to try to force itself a little bit more. And especially this tube right here, right there, right at the top, connects into a clip that is underneath here. And when that is supposed to happen, the roof isn't on. The top of this isn't on. There was no way to make that actually work in the suggested order of operations in the instructions. There were several areas in the instructions where I felt they didn't build test this. They just did it digitally. Or if anybody did build test it, they were just very, very tolerant of issues and just fixed them as they went, and just kind of were like, I'll just make it work. Definitely some of the instructions could have been done better. And some of the order of operations of when you create a subassembly and then when you attach that subassembly to the rest of the build could have been figured out much, much better. The electronics are super simple. Each of the lights is just a single LED in a double high stud. So it's taller than a regular stud. Plenty of extra space in there, plenty of space for the actual anti-stud area to be attached over a full stud, which is good, rather than trying to put an LED into just the height of a regular stud, which can cause issues. They have a standard size micro JST connector that they're using on each of them. And then they've got just a connector, just a power distribution board down in there, which is really, really simple, has a little bit of double-sided tape on it. And then this is something that I've seen a couple other companies do poorly if they're just going to have a very simple battery box. And then in this case, it just has some watch batteries in there. I believe it's 3 watch batteries. I didn't actually open this up yet, but and I've shown you in some reviews when this sort of thing is done with just the brick top and bottom to it, this would be buried way into a build. Here, it's not buried into the build at all. So when your batteries run out, it's very easy to just pop this out, undo that one screw, change out your batteries, and just set it back in there. So that's really smart right there. But again, the whole thing is weird. I'm glad that I got it. I appreciate all the prints. I appreciate the colors. I appreciate the finished design, but putting it together was not the best experience. Definitely not. Oh yeah, also some of these larger tube sections, though again, I like what they look like. They don't make it obvious how you should bend them, like where. So here I'm bending on this axis, here I turn on the other axis, then I do a second one on that same axis. A different one has 2 bends in it, and they just didn't make it that obvious. Some areas they really are careful to show you how things are done. Some areas they are not careful. And so you really have to pay more attention or experiment a little bit to see how to get to the end result. Also, because of the 2 similar shades of pink here, you might not quite notice when you're switching between 2 shades as you go, especially if there are parts in both shades, such as this piece right here is the same as this piece right here, just in a different shade. So that's something to watch out for. They do show the difference in the instructions. It didn't feel as consistent as I would like, though, just from page to page. So you have to be careful with that. But, it is sturdy. After I put it together, I don't have any worries about this coming apart. I will show you the figure up more closely, especially from the front where you can see some weird things. But all in all, just really, really out there, really unique. I'm happy with it. I think the value is fine. The value is not great on this, but the value is fine given that it does have the lights, and the lights do look good and everything. But this is definitely not for everyone, right? The subject matter is not for everyone. And I think if you're a relative newcomer to building brick-based things, you might not be happy with the feel of the parts, with how stiff they are to put together, and specifically with the instructions for this one. Honestly, the instructions look okay, but once you start getting into it, you'll find some areas where you are going left to right, and then other areas where you're going up, top to bottom, and then other areas where within the same page, you're asked to go top to bottom, and then to the upper right, and then left to right, and then down. They're trying to use as little paper as possible, which I appreciate, but user experience is just a little bit more important than a couple sheets of paper. So the lack of consistency is definitely a little bit of an issue there. I mean, all these images look very clear. It's all full color and everything, but the nitty gritty is it's the devil in the details sort of situation with it. Attempts were made, but definitely these are not highly skilled, not highly experienced folks who are putting the entirety of this product together. Not yet. They need more work. They need more experience. They need more, a little more failure, and then learning from that failure. And speaking of failure, I guess this minifigure is supposed to look like Albert Einstein. That's all I've got that's the extent of my commentary on this one. To avoid the Danish brand's trademark, they have done some interesting things with how this is built. I don't think the head is safe, but the arms actually come as 2 pieces each. You put the arms together. They've got a mortise and tenon joint in there, which is very interesting and but just interesting. The legs are done a little bit differently as well. You don't have to assemble those, but you do have to assemble the arms. Again, 2 pieces per arm, and then you insert the arm at the shoulder, and then you've got just the regular articulation. There's no alternate face on this, and obviously the print on the legs is not good. The opacity there is very, very bad. That's supposed to represent white from the lab coat coming all the way down, and then there's none on the sides. So not great stuff here. They probably could have left this out entirely, honestly. Oh, one other thing. The anti-studs, you saw at first I had them in the seat. The anti-studs on the back of the leg, of each leg, not good. Way too tight, require way too much force to attach. So at the end of the day, will I ever buy another ZOIN product? Absolutely yes. I like variety, and this provides it in spades. The quality is not as good as it needs to be, and the instructions are not good for folks who are not too experienced with, especially with different brands. And the clutch power is not good for people with dainty fingers, or again, people who don't have experience outside of the Danish brand. If you come directly from Lego to this, you're going to have a bad time. You're going to think it's terrible. I've got the experience with other things, including stuff outside of the world of brick building. And so, I'm just a little bit more open-minded and willing to work my way through things, and I am happy with the end result, but not everybody is going to be happy with the end result here. So I cannot strongly recommend this. I hope that I've given you enough fair warnings about